Hi guys, it's Nicole, and today I have some exciting news to share with you. I am going to be a design team member over at the Scraproom Kit Club, starting with this month of January 2021. So I'm excited to play along for a while. If you're not real sure, the flavors of the month is the one that I'm going to be playing with, and basically each month you get kind of like a small sampling of 4 different lines, pretty much newer lines. Then this is the embellishment add-on that I'm going to be playing with some of the kits. Some of them I stick to just what's in the kit, and then some of them I kind of basically include everything. So I am starting out with the first layout that I'm going to be sharing is the Cartabella Winter Market kit. So you're going to get 2 sheets of a cardstock, you get 3 sheets of pattern paper, and I kept this portion of the video kind of in regular time so that you can really see. And this is how I go through the kits, is I look at the papers and then I tend to keep the paper with the side up that I am more drawn to. And it doesn't, you guys shouldn't be surprised that it's going to be the B sides and that really pretty like floral. And then the kit kind of comes with like a set of embellishments, but it has been broken up. So anybody else that gets this kit might not get the same exact embellishment pieces that I get, which is kind of a fun thing because you don't really know what is going to be in your kit until you get it. The sample images might be the exact same pieces you get. They might be different. So again, I like to kind of lay everything out, see what came in the kit, while I'm kind of thinking in my mind about what do I want to do with this stuff? What am I drawn to? What kind of ideas are coming to mind while I'm doing this? This specific kit, you get 1/3 of a pack of the tags and frames from Cartabella, and then 1/5 of a pack of the enamel dots. So, or no, yeah, that's right. Trying to go back and think about this for a second. And then the chipboard is part of the embellishment add-on. So I end up using probably about half and half. And then at this point, I have my photos printed. I'm going to use a photo collage, a couple extra prints. And then I wanted to share with you guys that this was the sketch that I drew for myself. Before I cut into any of the papers with something like this, I kind of like to have a game plan or a sketch or some sort of thing mapped out before I cut anything. Because if I was just sitting in my room pulling things from my own stash, I wouldn't be worried about if I cut paper and didn't like it. I could just go find something else. With these, you've got just the 3 sheets of pattern paper. And depending on the style or the method that you scrapbook with, it's gonna be different on if you just grab that paper and start cutting and go for it. That's not me. Anybody who's watched me for a while, that's not me. I really have to think about it, and so I tend to fall back on habits that I got into when I was designing like layout classes at my local store, where I would kind of pre-plan before I really started cutting into anything, because that was similar to this, where you have like a limited amount of supplies and you really want to figure out what you're doing before you start cutting anything. So at this point, I am just playing with the embellishments and figuring out, is the kind of sketched out version of what I want to do going to work. And I decided that I wanted to use those circle chipboard pieces that spell out the word snow and then the little like mittens. Those again were just the things that I was drawn to every time I looked at that chipboard. So I decided to figure out a way to incorporate that into my title to be able to kind of make everything work. And I think I've mentioned this before. I live kind of in the Las Vegas area, so we don't really get snow. So when I first opened this kit, I was thinking, oh boy. And I don't really take like wintry type photos. Like if I took pictures of my kids at the park in December, there's still palm trees, there's still green grass. Like we don't really have like, oh look, it's winter. So I just sat down, went through all of my digital photos, and was super excited to remember that well, I guess it's not last year now, it would have been, I don't know, 2019, we had some snow that fell kind of overnight. So basically I got my kids up, got them ready for school, looked out the window and was like, hold up, what is that? And I sent them outside to kind of go experience it as much as they possibly could with, a whole little half-inch dusting on stuff. But it was fun to go out there and just kind of see, ripe lemons on my lemon tree that also had snow on them. So it was just kind of like, well, this is weird. This is fun. It ended up melting a couple hours later. And by the time I picked them up from school, it had just kind of turned into cold rain. But it was a fun adventure for them. They got to say that they saw snow, and we took a couple of cute pictures out in the backyard. So that was, what I decided to pair up with this. What's nice about the embellishments is they don't all say anything about snow. You kind of have a mix of like winter phrases, snow phrases, cuddle up, bundle up, that type of thing. And when I draw out my sketch, this is kind of a go-to design for me to sort of do like a big block of pattern paper, a big block of pattern paper kind of meeting in the middle. I am still in this thing where I'm enjoying photo collages for being able to get a good amount of photos on a single page layout with it still being balanced and still having room for things. When I was editing the photo collage, I intentionally left one of the photo spaces empty so that I could go ahead and type my journaling on it. Sometimes I will type it directly into the actual photo collage and have it print on the photo paper. For this time, I really wanted a little bit more texture, so I printed it on just some white cardstock in my stash, trimmed it down a little bit, and then just kind of roughed up the corners a little bit so that you would see it because it is white on white. And then a lot of the actual like die cuts and tags and frames that came with the kit, I tend to tuck them behind photos. Any of the ones that I felt like had like a phrase on it that I could possibly use in another layout, I didn't use those. Like, it's usually the ones where I'm like, I don't know how I would use this, so I don't feel bad about covering up the phrase or the image that's on it, because it's kind of like having a little scrap piece of pattern paper that's different than the 3 that I'm using. And then I used the little banner pieces that came with it to put up in the upper right hand corner. I like when collections kind of come with stuff like that. To me, it's like the easy go-to solution for having kind of like your little smaller cluster when you need to have something else going on. Like, I've got a big photo block, I've got that big kind of busy cluster going with the 2 individual photos, so I do like to have just a little sampling of something else kind of away from all that. And then to continue to build up my title area, I cut out one of the phrases that was on the 3x4 cards, which was on the back side of one of the papers. I did look through the die cuts and there wasn't anything that I could kind of cut from there, so I just chose to cut out from the pattern paper the one that said Winter Wonderland. And I like including things like phrases and stuff like that in my titles. I like having different colors, different fonts, different textures, different heights, that kind of thing with my titles. That's probably the part of embellishing that I do enjoy. And I'm just going to kind of have everything sort of snuggled in between those mittens. And then from there, because I had only used the one sheet of cardstock for my layout base, I still had the other one left to be able to cut out my own letters to make a title. And so I'm just going to take this skinny font that's like all upper letters, and I'm going to die cut letters to spell out let it. So it's going to go with the little circle chipboard pieces and just say, "Let it snow." I tried to think of a more creative title, but because I was wanting to use the chipboard that said snow and I wanted my title to end with that word, I was kind of limited. Plus, it was like, I don't know, I just couldn't come up with something. Like, it's not technically their first time seeing snow. It does snow here occasionally, just not as often on the side of the valley that we're on. So I went basic with "Let It Snow." And then because the chipboard does have a lot of dimension, I used foam adhesive behind the Winter Wonderland phrase. I don't like to do just one layer when I do like DIY letters like this. I like to cut them out anywhere from 2 to 4 times and glue them on top of each other. It just gives it a little bit more like presence, I guess is the word I would say. If you haven't done this, just try it. I don't know how to explain it until you actually do it. Like, just take some cardstock, cut out your title, and don't glue it, but just set it on your layout with only one layer, and then try it again with 3 layers and see like your take on that. I really like kind of just the added, it kind of helps make it look more like, well, not like store-bought letter stickers, but I don't know. I'm doing a terrible job explaining this. Try it. Let me know what you think. So I've got everything cut out, and I'm just kind of keeping everything sort of centered to the right of my photos in between those little mittens. And pretty much those little mittens, the snow circles, were kind of the 2 elements that when I first looked at everything, I was like, how do I find a way to use these? That's kind of how I approach these kits. Is I look at it, I figure out, okay, which sides of the papers am I drawn to, and what specific embellishments am I drawn to, because that's kind of where I go design-wise from there. And I don't necessarily have like a structure that I follow. You know, when I sit down to create a layout, sometimes I start with photos, sometimes I start with a specific sketch in mind, or one specific embellishment that I want to use, or one specific thing that I want to incorporate. I kind of bounce around between how I get started, and I'm totally okay with that. I know a lot of people they kind of have like a structure of, you know, I do this and I do this and I do this, and the only variable is the product. I think my variable and my style is how I get started. I did go ahead and I used up all of the lighter blue enamel dots and just sprinkled them everywhere. I added a couple of the circular chipboard pieces here and there. And then I'm going to go ahead and make sure that I include the date. And I like to just use a date stamp, usually somewhere in the bottom of my layout. And yeah, that was pretty much it. So I will have links below for everything. And I kind of forgot to talk more about the kits. So probably tomorrow's video, I'll touch a little bit more on the kits and information with that. But with that, I am going to say goodbye to you guys, and I will catch you tomorrow with another video.